And I think we've got Cindy coming in. Okay. Once you guys start coming in, open up the chat and let us know what you are thinking about for your 2026 race schedule. Let us know if you are going to step out of your comfort zone and if there's something that you want to try next year, whether it's marathons, ultras, triathlon, cycling, or if it's something different. Awesome. Hey, hi, Anna. Nice to see you. We've got Aubrey. Aubrey, yay. We haven't seen your
Hey,
face in so long.
yeah.
Glad to have you here.
And don't be shy. We want to see you.
Slowly but surely, we've got some people trickling in. So if you were jumping on and you didn't hear me, open up the chat and let us know what you're thinking about for 2026, your race season, and if there's something new you want to try, something that you want to do to get out of your comfort zone, let us know. So let me open up the chat. Ooh, Claire, a 10K swim. Awesome. Now, will that be like in a lake or where will you do that? Let us know. And then Ashley, a century bike. So is that 100 miles? Goldilocks. That's Santa Barbara Century. Some trail races. And the 50K distance, tell me because, I don't know all the lingo. What is 50K?
It's usually 34 miles.
Okay. Ooh, Ashley, 100 miles. Now, Ashley, are you doing a 50K a couple weekends from now? Was it you that put that in the group? Oh, Karen, I know you're waiting to complete the circle, right? Awesome. Um,
Nice.
let's see. Angie, okay, you're thinking about maybe a triathlon. Awesome. Well, Sabrina will be helping us with that tonight. Oh, a rowing basin. Okay, Claire, I gotcha.
And then Anna, that's cool. I didn't learn how to swim until my mid 40s, so I wish I had started when in grade school or high school, but yeah, that's always a challenge is the swimming.
Um, okay. So Cindy, is that the 70.3 that you did just recently? Okay. Oh, I see you shaking your head here. Yeah. Okay. That was
Sorry,
your
I couldn't.
first one.
That was my first and only.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
on that.
So you're
Congrats.
wanting to go
That's a
back.
huge.
Thank you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a great race because I can sleep in my own bed at night and do the race. So I
Oh,
don't have to
that's
That's
try.
always,
nice.
yeah, that's always nice for a half.
I have a
Yeah.
very nice bed, so
All right. Well, we're 5 minutes past, so why don't we go ahead and get started? And then I'm sure more people will trickle in because we've got more people on the registration list. But let's just go ahead and get started. So, we have a few things that we wanted to do tonight. We want to announce the team race. We're super excited about that because we've talked about that for a couple years in a row, and we are always like way behind the eight ball on that. So we had been thinking about it and talking about it for a while. So we're going to do that. And then we have an announcement. We still need to do our Q3 drawing. So we're going to talk about when that will be. And then we're just going to open up our athlete panel and just kind of like have a conversation and just keep it really chill. So we're looking forward to tonight. It's just a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So our team race, are you guys ready?
I'm
Drum
rolling.
roll. We're going to do a team race at Pumpkin Man. So we're really excited about that. This is going to be at Spring Hill in South Berwick, Maine. And I know this is one that Cami loves. She's done it a bazillion times, I think. And I think she just jumped on. Did you
Yep.
let her in or did I? Okay, she's here.
Yeah.
Um, it's way to the north, the south in the south to the north. So I know it is a little bit far for our West Coasters, but I think this will be a really good team race. We just looked at a lot of different options, and what we really wanted to do was just have a race that had options. And so this is great because it's a 2 day, I don't know, do you call it like a
Festival.
festival?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
So Saturday, it's going to be, so mark your calendar. It's going to be September 12th and 13th of next year. And on the 12th, they have their triathlon races. And on the 13th, they have their running races. So there's a little bit for everybody. And if you wanted to do a triathlon and a running race, you could do that as well. And I asked Cami just to talk a little bit on it, but I had talked to her months ago about this, and she just lights up when she talks about it and loves this race so much. And it's family friendly, and we thought that maybe this could possibly be like a little mini vacation if you wanted to include your family. And there's lots to see around that area in Maine. And Cami, are you here? Oh
I'm
yeah, there you
here.
are. Okay.
I'm
My
here.
my chat box was covering you up. Do you
Mhm.
just want to take maybe like a minute or two, just really quickly, just kind of talk about it just really fast?
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Hmm.
Can
Yep.
we cannot
Okay.
see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, ironically, I was in I was actually at a thank you dinner for Pumpkin Man for this year. Um,
Cool.
it's it is a race that changed my life. It was my very first triathlon, and this coming year, 2026, will be the 20th year for Pumpkin
Hmm.
Man. So big things will be happening at the race. It is unlike any other locally produced race that I have ever done. Um, there are over 200 volunteers. Everything goes like clockwork. The entire community is involved in producing this race. And Ra- like it, Rachel Martin is the race director. Her husband Brad, who you don't see all weekend, but he's out there on course. He mows the field for the finish line. It's an amazing event. The kids from the high schools come and volunteer. Um, Beautiful course, very, very safe. Athlete safety is number one throughout. The swim is in beautiful Knights Pond. It's beautiful. The bike course, if you do the sprint, it is a single loop. If you do the Olympic, it is a double loop. Um, it's what we like to call New England flat, which is it's rollers and it's got some nice deep descents as well. Um, and then the run is it's a beautiful rolling run. And then afterwards, there this it's not like going to a race where you get a half a banana and a bagel. There is a full brunch. Um, there is if you want to, there are mimosas and Bloody Marys as well as beer and non-alcoholic beverages, but full brunch. Um, it's it's an amazing event. I cannot say enough good things about it. And then on the Sunday, there is also a brunch, and there are multiple distances to run. There
Right.
is a 5K, they call it the American Apple Pie 3.14 miler. There is the Jenny, which is the 8.675309
309.
miler, named after the song.
That's
Um,
funny.
there is a half marathon. There is also a 30K. There used to be a 15 miler. They changed it to a 30K because there are a lot of people who are training for fall marathons. And we said, what could be better than having a fully supported, fun training run? So there's a 30K for that. And then there is also the challenge on Spring Hill, which is a um, it's 6.6 miles up and down Spring Hill, which is it's about I think it's 33 times up and down, and you can do it as a hill climb, you can do it as a
Wow.
ruck, you can do it as part of a relay team. So there are options for everybody. There's also a 1 mile fun run. So if you come with family and you've got, kids or, you just want to do a 1 mile fun run, there's that. Um, the other big component to Pumpkin Man that I absolutely love is that 100% of the proceeds go to local charities. So this is
Nice.
not a for-profit event. And everything is done to not only provide athletes with good value, but also to be able to give as much to the community as possible. So
Right.
they're just there's it's like what's not to love about this
Right.
race?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why, and that was one of the big reasons why we chose Pumpkin Man because of the fact that it has so many options for athletes. So it has a
Yeah.
sprint, Olympic, aquabike, relays, and then it has all the distances that Cami had talked about. So, and then, the bonus is it's a charity event. So, um, and we will definitely be there. I haven't talked to Rachel yet, but I'm sure we'll be, prominent there with a booth and handing out tattoos and it's just going to be a fun event. So we really hope that a lot of you will come. I know
Yeah.
it's not possible everybody to come, but we want as many there. It's great to meet everybody in person, and we can just enjoy it as a community.
And I will
Yeah.
be getting a discount code for our team.
Okay.
I talked to Rachel
Great.
about it tonight, and she said, "Yeah, just send me an email." So I'm gonna send her an email, and she'll get us a discount code.
Okay,
Awesome.
that sounds awesome. Thank you, Cami, for doing that.
Absolutely, sure.
So, yeah, so we'll send out an email with, information, and just kind of like we said, just, think about that and hopefully you can incorporate that into your 2026 race season. So, we're excited.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you, Cami.
yeah.
All right. So the next thing is our Q3 drawing. So we are going to do that this Wednesday, October 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to come. It's going to be through Facebook and I'll create an event in there. And remember, you get your name put into the drawing if you have purchased My Race Tats, if you have shared your code and it's been used in Q3, or you've connected us with somebody in the community. And the more things you did, the more your name goes into the jar or the bowl or whatever we use, and the more chance or the higher chance you have to win. So mark
We
your
also
calendar
have
for
we
that.
also yeah, we also have some people that have ordered custom tattoos and then your
Yeah,
names go
that's
on there.
part
So
of, yeah, getting My Race Tats. Yeah, purchasing My Race Tats. So
awesome.
anyway, and we'll have some fun prizes again. So we're excited about that. So we hope to see you Wednesday night. All right. So we wanted to jump into our athlete panel. We sent out an email this morning and we just did a real quick introduction on each of our volunteers, but we want to just do a little bit deeper dive on the introduction so you get to know them a little bit more. And we're super excited that we have our volunteers tonight to help answer any questions you might have. As we introduce you, just give a quick wave so everyone knows who you are, although I think most of your names are up by your face, but you can wave anyway. So I'll get us started with Angie. Angie is a mom of three. A mom of three of a mom of three young adults. Oh my gosh, I can't talk anymore. She's been married for 30 years, which I'm not really sure how that's happened, but you look so young. She's currently a middle school PE and dance teacher and is in her 20th year of education. She has a wide background in fitness, including being a fitness instructor, personal trainer, and a coach for a variety of sports in middle school and high school. Her big goal this year is to start a coaching business, which is super exciting. She's been running for 30 years and recently has begun ultra marathons, and she's been able to navigate and work through stomach issues, painful blisters, plantar fasciitis, chafing, fatigue, and anything else that you can imagine when you run a long distance.
Then I'm going to introduce Megan. Megan is a mom of two teenage boys, and she has been married to her husband for 19 years. You all are awesome. And she's the MRT endurance cyclist, and she's been enjoying the sport for the past 5 years. She loves cycling events and prefers these over racing. And when it comes to cycling, she loves inviting women to join her on the road and learn how to safely ride in a group and just enjoy being part of a cycling community.
And next up, we have Sabrina. And after many years of struggling with her weight, Sabrina began her fitness journey when she was just 26 years old. Her first 5K quickly turned into marathons, ultras, Spartan races, and then ultimately triathlon. She's completed her she completed her first Ironman in 2019 and fell in love. I always say that you got bit by the bug. You drank the Kool-Aid. She's now completed 11 Ironman and 10 half Ironman races, and she left her teaching career and now coaches others to help them chase their own finish lines.
Cool. And then I'm going to introduce Karen. Karen, in 2020, when COVID hit, she was 327 pounds, if you can believe that. So, and she actually scared herself into getting healthy. She started with walking and then more structured fitness. She put in a lot of blood, sweat, and a lot of tears. And in 2023, she signed up for her first race, and that was the Turkey Trot 5K. And then, if you can believe it, 11 and a half months later, she was running the New York City Marathon. Since then, she has ran London, Sydney, Berlin, and her goal is to finish all the world major marathons. Today, she's down 180 pounds and actually weighs less than she did. She weighs less than the weight she's lost, which is incredible. And her goal is just to continue to push herself and see what she can do and accomplish. So thank you so much for everybody being here. You guys are awesome. It's awesome to have you here, just guiding other people and encouraging and inspiring others, really.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we're going to start out with some questions since nobody submitted questions, and but we want this to be more of a conversation. So as questions come up for y'all, just raise your hand, and we'll have you unmute yourself. And then if anybody else has questions based off that question or has any advice or anything like that, you can unmute yourself as well. So we'll start with you, Karen. How did you choose your first marathon, and what advice would you have for others?
So, after doing the 5K, I live in Jersey City, New Jersey. So I was amongst a large group of running friends that all were going to do New York City. And I realized I was going to take the leap of faith and just go all in. I'm more of an extremist personality. So I either was extremely unhealthy and now I'm the polar opposite. And so for me, being born and raised here, New York has a special place in my heart. And I realized if I'm going to do the first marathon, it has to be New York City. When I didn't get in on the lottery because I wasn't the one person chosen, I decided I was going to do it through charity and I was going to get there any way I could. And it was just having the support of friends and realizing, okay, now I really have to train how to run. So what I did was I made it very social for myself. I joined run clubs. And I know that for a lot of people I talk to, that's the scariest part of running. They try to run alone and they're afraid to go to a run club because they're afraid of hearing about really fast paces. And so I went into a run club trusting my friends, saying this is a very large run club where they have everybody from walking and rehabbing from injuries all the way to 4-minute miles, like people who are just absolutely insane. And it took a lot of persuasion, but the first time I went, I think what was great is that the head of the run club ran alongside me, and I kept saying, I'm going to be the last person to finish out of 100 people. And he said, no, my job is I'm the last person to finish. Nobody in the run club is ever the last person to finish. And you can't be the last person to finish if you're not on your couch. So,
That's cool.
I found a very supportive community. So the first thing I tell people is take the leap of faith and join one of your local run clubs, because there's a lot. I think the running community is one of the most supportive. Athletes in general, I think, are very, very supportive people, especially when they see someone struggling or they're insecure about what they're about to do. And I have found that those are the people that lifted me up and convinced me that I could do it before I realized I really could do it. And so that's my biggest piece of advice is joining a run club, making it social. Don't go out there all by yourself every single time. Sometimes that is what you need to work it out, but I think the social aspect is what makes the biggest difference in training.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's awesome that you just had a place in your heart for that marathon too. And that's kind of how you chose that. Yeah. Cool.
Very cool. And then we're going to move on to Angie. How did you choose your first ultra, and what would you recommend others try, or how would they start?
So we moved to Arizona in 2013, and after being here for a couple of years and seeking out a community, I was doing Spartan races and met several people who did trail races outside of the Spartans. And the one of the biggest organizers is Aravaipa Running, and they have an Insomniac series. So it starts in April, and they run all the Maricopa County regional parks in April, May, June, July, August, and then it finishes in September. And you can choose uh, a different pass, so you can sign up individually for the races, or you can save a little bit of money and sign up for all the races. So I signed up for the Evolution series, and it evolves you to a 50K. So your last race is a 50K. So you start off with a nice, easy 6K, and then a 10K. They have a 15K, 25K, 31K, and then the big one. My first 50K, I treated it like a road marathon, and I almost didn't succeed because a trail 50K in Arizona is hot in September. And even though they're at night, you have to have your nutrition. The trail, I just ran the trail today because I'm preparing for Javelina 100 at the end of the month. It's very long, and there's not, even though it feels like there are aid stations out there, it's they're very spaced out. And so you really, during the 50K, you have the aid station at headquarters, and then you have an aid station. The loop is 15 and a half miles. So you have an aid station about 7.5 miles in. So you really need to pack everything that you might need. And I was such a newbie. I did not know I was going to need extra batteries, extra nutrition. I had moved from the Oregon coast, and so I was still treating my running like I could go all day without needing water.
Right.
Right.
So that's how I chose my first 50K. And I did that in 2017, ran it a couple more times, and then decided in 2022 that it was time to try something new.
Is
Yeah.
an ultra marathon, is that anything past the marathon distance, I
Mhm.
guess? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it could be 26.6 and be considered an ultra.
Right. True.
So our 50Ks are 31 and a half miles.
I
Okay.
have a
And
question.
yeah.
Because I would say the one thing I was going to mention is when I took the leap from a 5K to a half marathon to the full marathon, my first, obviously New York City Marathon, mile 20 is when I realized I have drastically underfueled and
Mm.
undermined the energy levels that I think I have, and literally hit a wall. And it was the luck of a spectator having an extra Morton gel, which was what I had trained on, um, to give me. And so I know you mentioned that you didn't have as much supplies. Where do you go to find your nutrition or balancing how much you need going into the race and during the race?
Oh, so the one thing I've learned is there is such thing as fuel fatigue. So I try to make sure I have a variety in my
Mm.
pack. My go-tos now are UCAN gels. They're not really a gel. It's more like,
Mm,
I don't know, it helps change up the textures. I like honey stinger, um, goo or cliff shots. I'll even switch in between real food, which you can get at aid stations. And then with the packs, I'll pack in kind of like God, what are they called? They're like an almond butter granola kind of cookie thing. You get them, you can get them anywhere, but I get them at Costco. The little bites, like Cliff Shots or
mhm.
Honey
Right.
Stinger gels or Bonk Breakers,
Mhm.
the little Breakers. You can get them, wow, you can get anywhere. Walmart. Oh, I really like glucose too. It's like
Mm.
it's more liquidy, so and it has electrolytes and calories. But the biggest thing is figuring out how often and how frequent you need to take in the fuel.
And
So
then
for
do you
me,
carry a certain amount on you? And then do you have
mhm,
places you can drop stuff or?
depending if the race allows you drop bags, plan what you need from the start line to your drop bag. So I
Mm,
did Sedona Canyons 125 in May, and I had extra. So where I wasn't going to have my crew, those drop bags have what I needed to make it through the next X amount of hours. So if you're taking in 70 to 100 calories in gel, you need to make sure how many hours are you going to be out there till you see your crew, and you need to put it in a little plastic baggie and label it when you get ready to put everything in your drop bags. Okay, this drop bag goes to Deer Pass. This drop bag goes to Sedona. This drop bag goes to Foxborough. And it's just your little packet of nutrition. And you can place it in your pack if you want, or you can just put it all that's in your Ziploc baggie. But you want to make sure you plan out how much fuel, how frequently. 30 minutes is too much for me. So if I have my balance is about every 40 minutes, I take some kind of a nutrition in.
40 minutes.
Yeah. So the feed is really good. They sell a lot of different varieties of
Mhm.
things. But find what you like, get a variety
Yeah.
of different things and test it out. But just know one thing that you're going to really love. Like I love Honey Stinger, just the liquid gold, the gold one, but I get fatigued from it pretty quick. I have to have a variety.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Um,
Did that answer your question?
Yes,
did
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Especially
Well,
coming from someone because I've lost the weight, I battle the fueling. I battle
Mm,
fueling because I have like, and it's sometimes hard, but I've become more vocal about, you know, the fear of eating, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow 327 pounds. It's a very mental block, but running New York City was enough when I felt like the moment at 20 miles where I started like floating and I realized, not good, not good floating. This is, I'm losing consciousness, and realized and got that fear of I'm going to pass out and not be able to finish. And I've done this to myself. So I've been playing around a lot with fueling, but I feel like, especially people training, that's something that I don't think a lot of people talk a lot about is the fear of eating, the malnutrition, or not malnutrition, but under fueling, and then
mhm.
finding the right balance where you're not getting the stomach issues, but you're also not mentally forcing yourself not to eat it because you think you shouldn't be eating it when you really need that fuel.
Can
right.
I say
Yeah.
Mhm.
something in there? You talked
Mhm.
about the mindset about it. Uh, I heard a really good quote. If the reason why you run is to lose weight, you are not running for the right reason.
Right.
Mm,
Mhm.
So,
Right.
yeah.
and what I always tell my eighth graders, I teach eighth grade health, is you are a high octane fuel vehicle. A Ferrari is not going to run on regular unleaded. You are a Ferrari and you need to make sure that you are fueling yourself, or else you're not going to have anything left in the tank to make it to the
Yeah.
finish line.
Mhm.
Right.
You'll be
Yeah.
barfing. You'll be puking somewhere out there.
I saw someone write, thinking of food as fuel
Yeah.
instead. And it's
That's the
almost
thing.
how
Yeah.
I talk about it with my family now is I need protein, I need fuel, but I rarely say food because I'm trying to just disconnect one
Yeah.
from the other and
It's your
trying to think of
nutrition.
like, I am a machine. I need to properly fuel
Yeah.
myself.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
your nutrition to do what you're going to do. So, yeah.
Those
Okay.
are great
Cool.
thoughts. Yeah. Awesome. Good conversation. Okay, Sabrina. So, what advice would you have for someone who's thinking about trying a triathlon? Many of our ambassadors are half marathoners, but when I asked the question a few months ago, like, what are you thinking about for 2026? What's something different you'd like to try or something new? There were ambassadors that said that they were very interested in trying triathlon, but I think a lot of people just get very overwhelmed with the three disciplines and just don't really even know where to start. So what advice would you have for somebody that's thinking about doing it?
And I have that same background to where I did start my journey as a runner. It was
Mhm.
5Ks, marathons, it was all about running until like I saw this thing called a triathlon. I was like, oh, what is this? I actually was motivated to start training for an Ironman when I was just watching TV one day and saw the infamous crawl across the finish line when Julie
Oh my
Moss
God.
crawled across the finish line in the World Championships. And something in me just was like, wow. I want to challenge myself to the point where it's like it has to overcome mentally more than physically. I wanted a challenge like the swim. I knew I couldn't swim. So I knew taking on a big, scary challenge would force me more mentally than physically, possibly. So that is what enticed me to get into triathlon. And, if you have just that inkling in your head of like, this is something I might want to do, let that drive you to do it. Don't let it, yeah, yes, it's scary, but let it kind of just be that step to be like, okay, if I'm thinking about it, I know I can do it. But what are the steps? So just if you're thinking about what distance to do and it does scare you a lot, then maybe start with a sprint. It doesn't have to go into full Ironmans. Like for me, I was like motivated. I said, I'm going to do an Ironman. So I signed up for Ironman Boulder in 2019, and
Wow.
that's what I started training for. I did do one sprint as I was training for that event. Um, but it's just about like finding your time commitment because a sprint versus a full Ironman, think of your family commitment, your work commitment. How much time are you willing to put into it? Especially if you're a novice. Like for me, when I first started, it was more hours than I possibly have to commit now, just because, especially with swimming, as a newer swimmer, all my time had to go into a lot of swimming because I had to teach myself to swim. And all this was before I was a coach and everything like that. So one of my downfalls is that I just printed out a generic plan online. I typed in Ironman training plan. It's like a 24-week plan, printed it out. That is to date my slowest out of 11 fulls. That's my slowest Ironman because I made all the mistakes and did all the wrong things. And now as a coach, I was like, oh, well, man, I did everything wrong, but now at least I made those
All
mistakes so
right.
I can help, people not make those mistakes and help my athletes through that process. But, thinking of time commitment is a big one. Thinking of maybe even talking to a coach. It's not like you have to make the commitment. And because most coaches out there, I know for my, athletes or people who are interested, I always sit down and do just a conversation with them, talk about what does it look like. And as a good coach should help you navigate what distance is maybe appropriate for you. If you share
Mhm.
with them how many hours you work, your family commitments, all that kind of stuff, past injuries, things like that, a good coach should be able to help you make that decision on what distance and also what course would be beneficial for you. Like you have to think, if you're not ready for an open water swim for your first one, maybe not sign up for a half or a full, or most Olympics are in open water as well. Maybe a sprint. If it's a pool, do you want a 25-yard or is the race going to be a 50-meter? So little things like that, a coach should be helping you, guide through that process. Is the bike going to be hillier? Do you want a flat bike? If you're going
Mhm.
to do an open water swim, do you want a down river swim? Little
Right.
Yeah.
things like that. So, and then just, yeah, so that I would say those are my biggest things on like how to get started, just to think about like what distance, um,
Mhm.
the course you want to do, and if you want to
Mhm.
talk to, a coach or get a generic plan to get you
Mhm.
started.
Yeah, those are good points because definitely the course matters, and the distance obviously does too. But there's a lot more to think about, I think, with triathlon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, for me, I think it was because I came from a running background as well. I didn't really jump into triathlon until after I started running. And I wasn't as brave as Sabrina. I kind of just worked my way up from sprints to Olympics to
Olympic.
halves and then fulls. Yeah, and so and there's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just it's stepping out of your comfort zone and like Sabrina said, just challenging yourself. And it is. And that's really the driving force behind My Race Tats. It is all a mental game about how you're challenging yourself. And that's really why I created My Race Tats, was it's just encouraging yourself to reach for more, to be more, and to do
Believe in
more.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's in you. You just got to give it a chance, give it a channel to come out. So very
Mhm.
cool.
I always see if it wasn't meant for you, the universe wouldn't put it in your mind to think of to begin with. So if you're thinking it, it's meant for you in some way. So
Right.
I just wanted to mention too, when it comes to triathlon, for anybody that would want to come to the East Coast or that lives on the East Coast, um, there are a couple ladies that started She Tries here in Charleston, and it's an all women's mini triathlon. The swim is in a pool, and so it makes it, very safe for people because for most of the swim you can stand if you don't want to get in like a body of water. But it's like I said, it's a very mini. I think a lot of you follow Kelly Ranciere, and her daughter and her mom and her aunt, they all did it last month in September. But they have the triathlons here in Charleston, and then they've branched out into North Carolina into some different cities there. So that's something to think about. That's a great way to just even try it and see if it's something that you like. So,
Hmm. For sure.
yeah,
Let's go on to Megan. Were you doing
yeah.
Megan?
No, go
Go ahead.
ahead. Oh,
All
I
right,
can.
Megan. Yeah,
Oh no,
either
you
way.
you go.
Um, as far as cycling goes, what would you recommend? If they don't have a bike, number one, and if they didn't aren't spending a lot of time on their bike, how would you encourage them to kind of like start incorporating that more into their workout routines?
So when I first started, I actually started in triathlons and I did not have a bike. And so my mom, who's a cyclist, took me to her favorite bike shop and I just got a really cheap bike. It was a hybrid bike. I was pulling around two little boys in a wagon. And so that's how I got started. But you can also rent a bike. Most local bike shops rent for either the day,
It's a good
by the
idea.
hour, by the week. It depends what they do. But my first bike, I just bought like the cheapest bike possible and went with it. When I started actually into road cycling, I just found a bike off of like Craigslist, paid
Mm,
really cheap money, and
mm,
so that's what the bike I have. It's a 2012. I love it, and it's one of my favorite bikes. Um, and for those who don't have a lot of time, choose a distance that's not very long. I talked to women last year at an event who bought their bike and they were in an event a month later, had never ridden their bike more than
Wow.
like 3 or 4 times. So
oh my
Right.
gosh.
it all depends what you can fit in your schedule and what distance you want to do.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that's great, with the bike, just recommending keeping it simple because I think people can get or athletes can get caught up in that, especially with triathlon too, with, well, I don't really have a bike or I don't have the good bike or the best bike, or you just really just need a bike to get started and then go from
Yeah.
there, it sounds like.
Yeah. As long as the bike is in great condition, you are the motor. So
Right.
Right.
Awesome. So it doesn't have to be the perfect bike,
is
just
that,
get
nope.
started. All right. Okay. Karen, are you still there? Are you
You
still
have to
there,
drop
Karen?
off.
No, I see her. Are you okay? Okay. You're muted.
Sorry, my dog was whining, so I had to go get him a treat.
Oh, okay. The pug.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. You kind of talked about it a little bit with, not having enough nutrition and you felt it on mile 20, but what do you think some of the most common mistakes you made in the beginning, and how do you think others can avoid them?
So I would say nutrition was my biggest one, the fueling.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Also, I would actually say mentally being too hard on myself.
Mm.
Um,
Mm,
I still to this day battle with my pace. I'm slow. And then I have to remind myself I've done 4 marathons in 1 year. Um,
That's huge.
to cut myself a break,
Right.
Yeah.
mentally, and realize the pace will come with experience, because I constantly compare myself to my other friends who are doing 8 minute, 7 minute miles, or talking about whether they BQ'd. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, I missed the Boston qualifier by like 4.5 hours. So I'm right on the cusp of getting it.
Right.
I'm right there. But cutting myself a break and
Hmm.
allowing myself to take rest days.
Hmm.
I definitely fell in the trap of overtraining and then
Okay.
hitting a wall of just physical fatigue and
Hmm.
realizing that I was detraining rather than getting
Right.
better, and then wondering why is this getting harder? And then forcing myself to take a day, 2 days off, and realizing you don't take 2 days off and all of a sudden you can't run a mile. If
Hmm.
anything, you run it faster. And I realized that the combination, and then I would say the other thing with mental is letting your friends know that you need their support. We talked about the
Hmm.
time constraints, and there's people who don't, in my way, they don't get it. I don't
Hmm.
understand. Skip training and just come out. I don't understand why you just can't have a drink tonight. What's your problem? Why are you going to bed at 7 p.m.? And you almost start filtering who your
Hmm.
friends are, but then realizing it's okay to demand their support, not demand, but, ask their support and say, this is going to be very hard for me. And I would like you at the race. And I would like you at mile 5 or mile 10 or at the finish line, because
Hmm.
I'm going to draw on that energy. And that is something I've told a couple of people when I know it's their first bigger race, is draw on the crowd support and take a minute and realize what you're doing. I think you guys all saw my goofy picture when I ran over Tower Bridge in London, because I all of a sudden had this moment of like, oh my God, I'm running over a Tower Bridge in London. What?
Right.
What? And I have this look like I'm a child meeting Santa Claus. And it's one of my favorite pictures because it literally brings me back to that moment of like, I broke into like almost a walk, and it was the best part of the marathon for me because it was a moment that I took it all in and went,
Hmm.
oh my God, how privileged am I that I just flew to London and they closed the streets for me, just for me.
Hmm.
And having these people who are complete strangers high-fiving and giving candy and all that kind of stuff. And then my last thing of advice is, someone else told me this and it's my favorite one, which is never run by a kid who wants a high five.
Right.
Oh,
Unless
that's
you're
a good one.
unless your last
That's an
name is
important one.
Kipchoge or is on, like, you can give the high five. You're not placing first place in the Olympics, then
That's
you
right.
can give that kid a
Right.
high five, because their face lights up like you're the famous person, and you're going to
Mhm.
give them that moment that they become the next runner because they remember that moment.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
that's great.
awesome.
Yeah, that's great advice.
So nutrition, resting, be be more like I
Ask for
guess
support.
mindful of like how great you're doing
Yeah.
and stop, not so much comparing, but just like really realizing what, you're doing. And then what was the last one you said, Tom?
Enjoying it, enjoying the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
I think
Enjoying the
who
moment.
keeps saying, someone famous had said the training is the hard part, the race is the celebration. And I
Right.
think a
Right.
lot of people forget that moment at some point in the race to realize what you're doing. And then my other favorite quote, I wish I knew who it was who said, maybe it was Catherine Switzer who said, if you ever lose your faith in humanity, go to a race, because you'll watch 55,000 people prove to themselves that they can. And
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
always makes me emotional when I think of that, because I realize that's exactly what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. That's
Yeah. And it
awesome.
doesn't matter if you're doing marathons, Ironmans, cycling, ultras. I mean, that it goes across the board about, being thankful and just enjoying the moment. And because, yeah, we are sometimes harder on ourselves that we're not going as fast or this went wrong. or whatever. But geez, yeah, you're right. It's the cherry on top. It's all the work and preparation that you've done to get there and get to the start line and just enjoy the moment. That's the key.
Yeah.
And some of these races, I mean, like you said, you got to go to London, and Dawn and I and Sabrina's going to be there. We get to go to Spain. And I mean, we've been to Hawaii. Sabrina's been to many places, and some of our other ambassadors have traveled to, other areas that, I mean, how lucky are we to be able to do things like that? So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Angie, I've got a question. So you had mentioned the the difference between that, you had kind of paced your race for like a marathon. So what's the difference? I mean, what is the difference? Because in my mind, I haven't done an ultra marathon, but I would think that your pace is like totally irrelevant in an ultra. It's like it's more about enjoying the moment and just almost survival. So what's the difference between the kind of the mindset of a marathon versus an ultra?
Well, the marathon usually are they're more likely to be on a road, so a city street, not a lot of obstacles. If you're fast, I'm not really fast. I could probably rock a 5K, uh, but with a marathon, I'm probably about a 10-minute mile if I'm really pushing myself. Um, it's really easier to gauge on the road because your only obstacle is if there's a hill,
Right.
and
Hmm.
people. Uh,
Right.
when you're running an ultra, oh, and with a marathon, you could possibly do negative splits. And negative splits is when your first couple of miles, your first mile's slow, and then you add on, you just get quicker as you go to the finish line. With an ultra marathon, depending on your distance, you need to add a couple of minutes to your actual pace. So, you know, today it's very rocky out on the trail for my race at the end of the month. When it's just a nice sand, I can run. When it's really rocky, last year I tripped and I fell and I probably gave myself a concussion, but I continued on and didn't go to the medical tent. And it's never the big rocks that take you down, it's the little rocks that you weren't paying attention to that you clip your toe. But you have to take that into account. You also have to take into the account that you're filling up more water in your bladder because depending on the time of year, you need to take
Hmm.
in more hydration with you. You are also running with a heavy. Like my pack today, I think weighed 8 pounds, maybe even more, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're running 22, 23 miles, it starts to drag on you. Um, so if your normal trail pace is anywhere from 11 to 12-minute miles, you're probably going to be doing about 16-minute miles. And so that's how you plan accordingly. So when you are in between aid stations, you can, okay, well, in a marathon, you know that you're going to have at the Mesa Marathon, there's aid stations every couple of miles. And then towards the end, it's every mile. You don't have those in ultras. So you could go into a road marathon with maybe a little pack with your nutrition in it and maybe a handheld water flask. But with an ultra, you are carrying a whole bunch of stuff that can weigh you down. And there's probably a lot more walking depending on how you feel on rocks. We're not all Jim Walmsley who can just glide over rocks like they don't even exist.
Right.
Um, so does that answer?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the
Totally.
Hmm.
big difference between the road and the trail. So even a trail marathon is going to look different than a road marathon.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Right.
on a trail
Okay.
marathon, you might come across a water crossing. Sedona Canyons, I refuse to walk across this one section in my shoes and socks. And so I took time to take my shoes and socks off and I walked barefoot
Mm.
across the water crossing because I forgot to pack water shoes. And then we have a race out at Lake Pleasant called the Damn Good Run. And if you do the 40K, they boat you across.
Oh my
So those
gosh.
little things all could chip away time
Yeah.
or add time to the end.
Yeah. I don't, and this kind of goes for all of you. do you recommend like if somebody's going from like a half marathon to a marathon or starting in triathlon or doing the ultra like you were talking about, Arizona is very warm. I mean, do you guys recommend that people like race in the temperatures that they're used to begin with when they're doing something different, or do you just kind of recommend like go wherever?
I was out there. There's a lot of people out on the trail. I'm gonna just jump in real quick, just because it's relevant to what you talked about. Uh, the trail was very heavy today. We're 3 weeks out from Javelina. Everyone running was racing. Um, there was a gentleman there with his team. They were doing a training camp, and they took off before us. And somehow I caught up to one of the athletes, and she lives on the East Coast. She flew out to run the course beforehand.
Mm,
Just know what the climate is. Um, One of the instructors that I use that I really like to run with on Peloton, she lives in London and raced Badwater. So she knew what the climate was going to do, and trained accordingly, whether it's a treadmill in a sauna or a bike in a sauna, figure out what the climate is. Because now that I'm acclimated to Arizona, I probably couldn't go up to the Pacific Northwest in the middle of winter and run a race like I could
hmm
have 15 years ago.
hmm Yeah, or it'd be very uncomfortable.
I agree with that. Like, because I've had some athletes, like I had people from New Jersey one time. I had a couple guys come that I coached race 70.3 Boulder with me. And of course, coming from, there to Boulder where the elevation is a huge
Elevation.
Hmm
difference. With coaching, we talked about the elevation change. We worked that into training. We talked about, for other athletes who have done like Arizona that weren't used to that heat, we did heat acclimation, stuff like that. And I think one of the most important parts, especially with places like Arizona, is knowing your fluid loss and knowing your
mm
electrolyte
Like
loss.
sweat.
So,
Yeah.
you don't want to chug a whole bunch of water and not have enough sodium, and then you're looking at hyponatremia.
Yeah.
So like with my athletes, we do sweat testing depending on the time of the year, when their races. We'll find fluid loss, what their sodium, so milligrams per hour, ounces per hour, stuff like that. And I always say, race like you train.
Hmm.
hmm
Have you by the time race day comes around, you should know pre-race nutrition, during it every hour when you're consuming carbs, sodium, and fluid, and then of course afterwards for recovery as well. So I think that's one of the biggest parts with like figuring out what race to do is like if it's going to be really hot and you're not used to that weather, is heat acclimation, but for safety as well, knowing your sodium. Like for me personally, a lot of the mistakes I made in the past before I have my certification in sports nutrition. And one of the biggest mistakes that I made in the past before that is I was pushing way too much sodium, thinking I was a salty sweater because I would finish these runs and my hat would be, full of the white residue. And I'm like, oh, I'm losing all this salt. So I was shoving probably 1,000 milligrams per hour. I was doing
Oh,
element,
too much.
right? So when I actually did sweat testing with the patch and then practice, like my actual sodium level for a run on a pretty warm day is only around 250. So that shows
mm
you the difference of like what I was doing to my body with pushing stuff I didn't necessarily need.
Yeah, I
Did
use
did
salt stick, the fast chews, because they're only 50 milligrams, and I don't take two at a time. But in Arizona, we lose just going outside a liter of water an hour existing. So then you add
Right.
exercising out there, you need to be accountable. My coach has me do a middle of the day in a horrible weather. It could be 118 degrees. He'll have me go out and run for about 30 minutes, weigh myself before, and then weigh
hmm
myself
Yeah.
afterwards. That's a better gauge of how much fluid loss that you've had.
Yeah.
I would
Did
also
Sabrina,
say in
oh,
the
go ahead.
race to listen to your body.
Mm.
With Berlin that I did 2 weeks ago, there were a lot of people dropping because Berlin,
Mm,
it was
it's
80
warm.
degrees and it was extremely humid. And I had an advantage because I had just gotten done training through New York City. So all of my training runs were in heat and humidity. And what I saw was actual, who I consider way more of an athlete than myself, dropping because they weren't listening to their body when their body was saying pull back. And I went from, I'm going into Berlin, I'm going to PR the course, it's a fast, flat course, to no, I'm just going to dial it back because it's okay to slow down. Because, you know, how some people say, like, you know, upright was my goal time at that point.
Mhm.
Finishing upright is a goal and forward is the pace. And if you have to slow it down because your body's telling you not today, that even if you trained in that weather all year, that day may not be your day, and listen to yourself, because
Yeah.
the worst thing you could do is push yourself and then get injured, and then you take yourself out for even longer than that one race was.
Yeah.
It's not worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And you don't
critical.
want to DNF if you don't, if at all possible. So yeah, good one. Sabrina, did you ever get an upset stomach or anything with all that sodium?
Oh yes, it took me
Okay, I was gonna
years to
say,
figure
yeah.
out my nutrition. I think some of my slowest, like my run in an Ironman, especially the when I got into triathlon, like I would always have GI issues off the bike onto the run, and my run times would be severely impacted because I would have GI issues, and that was part of it was from, you know, electrolyte imbalance, but also inappropriate carb use as well.
Yeah.
Um, you know, things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm finally to a point where I think you know, and that's another thing. It's like knowing how many carbs to take during, because, you know, higher heart, like the harder you're going, the more carbs your body's going to want to need. But then also, what is that threshold for, you know, the carbohydrates, and then training your gut to be able to take more. Like
Mhm.
for the bike, for instance, I was on the lower end for a long time, and now I'm finally up to like 85 grams per hour on the bike. But again, you want to train your gut to tolerate that. So like just upping it every few
Mhm.
long training sessions and teaching the gut to tolerate a larger carb intake.
Mhm.
Did we lose
Yeah.
everybody?
You don't need the runs when you're running. I've had the
No.
runs during my runs, and I've
No.
I've I ran into one porta potty where my friend said we thought you were gonna the back end was gonna topple over because I sprinted through the finish line and then kept sprinting like I gotta go, and that's where I learned the goo gels are not good for me because I did a negative split after the finish line, so.
Oh
Oh
my
my
goodness,
God.
Karen.
That's funny.
Sabrina, you talked a little bit about some of the common mistakes with triathlon. Is there anything else that that has come up or that you would advise people,
Yeah.
otherwise?
Just the swim. I think my biggest mistake when I got the general plan online, I did a bunch of junk miles. So that
Mm.
swim is my longest, like I can't even force myself to swim that slow now. But that would like, and that was all because I just got in the pool and swam countless laps. Yeah, I got the endurance, but one of the biggest mistakes is I didn't do a good open water swim before race day. So what happened? Get in the open water.
Mm.
Oh my God, I'm gonna die. I
Panic,
panicked.
yeah.
So there was that. So get in the open water if you're going to have an open water swim race, and then no junk miles in the pool. Like I think that's where a coach would help the most. It was my least favorite to start when I was training for it, but now as a coach, it's my one of my favorite disciplines to coach because I see such a difference when athletes actually focus on, you know, where they need to be. Like they send me form videos of them in the water, like we work on technique because swimming is technique based. Like it's all
Mhm.
technique. So the swimming definitely don't do your junk miles. Really focus on technique. And just if you're not going to use a coach, really, you know, my biggest mistake again was I was so obsessed, kind of like you know what Karen was talking about. It's like I pushed myself too hard. Like I would go do a long run, or there was times I did a marathon on a Sunday, and then I would be at the gym the next day doing a grit class and a body pump class. It was like go, 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 because I was so obsessed with this feeling of like I'm doing all these things that I never did before. And eventually it led to burnout and injury.
Mhm.
So just, you know, just knowing what a periodized plan looks like and how you should be adding volume safely, when your cutback weeks are, those types of things.
Mhm.
Um, and really, if you're not going to get a coach, like knowing your zones, if you're going to go by heart rate, and like rate of perceived exertion is great, but it's, you know, perceived exertion. So it's like you're going to say it feels easy, but you might be at your threshold pace. Because my biggest mistake was I would go on a long, easy run, and all my paces were like the same because I didn't want to see my Strava look slow. I didn't want to see these
Hmm.
slower numbers. So it's like knowing
Yeah.
your zones, and especially
Yeah.
with triathlon, it's knowing your zones for each discipline. Your heart rate is going to be different on the bike than it is the run. So just little things like that, really taking the time to to be strategic on your plan.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get to make sure we get Megan in here again too, but I do have one quick question for any of y'all that have done triathlon and swimming and all that. What would you recommend for me? Because here in the South, every body of water has alligators in it except a pool, and I am like frightened to get in the water and do any kind of swimming. So if I only have like feel comfortable in the pool, like how would I go and swim like at Pumpkin Man for the triathlon in a pond? And plus, I think you might have to wear a wetsuit in that water. So what kind of anybody that's done triathlon, like what would you say?
You
Dawn's
could get in
like,
the ocean
oh my
down there,
God.
Kathleen. You could get in the ocean down there, but you have sharks as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'd probably avoid.
so I guess maybe I would probably feel a little bit more comfortable in the ocean, even though the idea of sharks, it's just because you don't really see them. I mean, we see the alligators all the time, even in the water that Don does his triathlons in. But
They
And
I'm
won't
some
not
hurt
going
shark
to
you.
do
involved.
that. He's
Yeah.
like, they're just babies.
Yeah, they're just little. They're only 3 or 4 feet long. They're not going to bug you.
If you can get into a bigger pool, and just in terms of technique and things, because obviously, when you swim in a pool, you've got you've got the edges that you can push off of, which you don't have in open water swimming. So what I will usually do, and I do practice this in the off season when I have to be in the pool over the winter, is swim. I will swim toward the edge and then I will just do a turn like I'm practicing a buoy turn because I'm trying to maintain my effort as I
Hmm.
would um, as I would in open water. If you can get even to like if you're on vacation or anything and you can get into any kind of open water, the big thing that I've discovered with newer triathletes that go from, hey, I'm very confident in the pool, and then they go and do an open water swim and I think there's a couple things. One, mentally, you get out there into the open water, and sometimes you can be overwhelmed by the enormity of everything.
Hmm.
Um, so if you can find little points along the shoreline to sight off of, sighting is important in the water because you don't have lane markers.
Hmm.
So sighting also can help you stay calm in open water because you have something to fixate on and it will help you to go from one point to the next and get you through it and help to reduce that enormous feeling that you have.
Hmm. Okay, those are good ideas. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Cami.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kathleen, you could also, I know for me, I found a group that was meeting on Saturday mornings from 7 to 8, and it was a group open water swim. I mean, we don't have
Hmm.
the alligator situation up here, but still open water is very intimidating in general. And so to have a group of people, they had some lifeguards out there on paddle boards. They put out a couple of buoys and we swam for an hour. And you just had the comfort of some other people there. And it was great practice sighting and just getting comfortable in the open water. So I don't know if you have anything like that down there, but I would search around and ask around.
Yeah, I think they Dawn's been swimming with some people with a group, and I don't know if they do the lifeguarding thing, but
Yeah.
is it just a
Well,
group?
yeah. I mean, the where I'm swimming in the ocean right now, they have set up where I think probably other groups would too. They set up 2 buoys. You could just go from buoy to buoy, or you could just go down the coastline and come back. So there are options, and most groups that you go to would have options. And yeah. So
So yeah,
anyway,
that's something to think about. Yeah. Okay. I'll keep that in mind too. Thank you guys. I'm like, I can't go in the alligator water.
it's okay. I'll
Uh,
protect you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, and you probably won't need a wetsuit at Pumpkin Man. The water's usually
Probably
pretty
don't.
tepid. It's usually probably about, 70, 72, 73 degrees. It's pretty warm.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
good, good.
yeah,
Okay, well,
That's
I'll have to
good.
put
That's
that in
cool.
the email.
yeah,
I don't need to put that thing on and try to swim too.
yeah.
Um, okay, Megan, let me ask you. I know when
Mhm.
you emailed me, you said that you like to do events over racing. So, what's the difference between the two, and why do you like the events more?
I like the events more because I'm not fast. Um, Events are usually, at least here in Utah, events are usually a charity thing. And so
Okay.
the biggest one is Bike MS. There's usually about 1,300 riders, depending on and it varies over the distances. But they are big enough that they have police escorts, like at all the different intersections. We have the highway patrol riding with us on their motorbikes. So it depends. Events are based on how much money they can spend to for the course. My Goldilocks one that I'm an ambassador for, we don't have anything like that. We have enough money to do rest stops and provide some food, and that's about it.
Okay.
But races are generally closed. There are different types of races. My mom, who's a cyclist, like I said, she's a cyclist. She was a crit racer, so fast loops and
Wow.
so many
Okay.
miles. And I told myself I'm not ready for those because those have anywhere from 30 to 60 riders, and you're in pretty much a parking lot going in circles.
Mm,
And it
yeah.
gets really scary. So yeah, for me, I like events just because they're easier and they cost less and there's no rules. Races have rules, events, they have some rules, but not
Mhm.
anything that's what the UCI has in place.
I think that's a
So it
good
sounds like maybe, oh, go ahead.
I think that's a good thought is to try and it would be to find one of those races like
Mhm.
yeah, because we have here in Charleston they have the Lovello ride. It's an MUSC. There's a hospital here and it's just a charity ride. So you have different distances that you could go, and some people are cyclists, some people are on their cruiser bikes. And so
Mhm.
it's like, and I think that would be a good place to start for anybody
Yeah.
that's kind of curious, would be just to kind of do more of a charity ride that would be, you could do 10 miles and
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's
And at events, they want you to stop. They want you to take pictures like Karen was saying at London. They want you to, embrace what you're in and where you're at. The Goldilocks that I do, we go through the lavender fields down in Mona for the Young Living Farms, and then we go through a rock canyon and we go around a lake, and there's lots of scenery to take pictures of. Um, whereas
If
races,
anybody's interested in New York City, they do for biking, they do the Bike the Boroughs. And it's not a race, it's an event. And I've heard a lot of people say it was also a good way for them to test whether they can do
yes.
an Ironman or a triathlon because that tested them because there is some difficulty in it. But my understanding is that you can kind of tap in and tap out anytime you want. And a lot of people, so if anybody's ever interested, I actually would like to try it next year. So if anybody wants to do it with me, I'll probably have the cheapest, heaviest, inappropriate bicycle on the planet. But I'm looking for a crew to do it and have a really good time. I'll even put a bike bell on mine and maybe a little basket for my pug. But I just think
Aw.
it sounds fun to do an event like that rather than a
Yeah.
race. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of
yeah,
events, they'll have areas like they have people like, if you need to tap out, they can take you back to the start line. Most people do it to finish the event. And
What
racing, obviously you can tap out and they can help you get back, but it's not generally what people do.
what do you mean when you say you can tap in and tap it out at Bike New York at five
Um,
boroughs?
some people start in different boroughs and they add in. So when you sign up, you let them know where you're coming in. And then when I say tap out, if they decide like I'm good for now, you you just leave the course. You literally just leave the course.
Mhm.
And they have kind of like they said, like I think they have volunteers that'll bus you like back and forth. But for the most part, I think the overall agreement is that wherever you leave, you're responsible for getting yourself and your bike back. But I know that a lot of clubs do it, and they're not all biking clubs. So some
Okay,
of them
so
are run clubs. So I
five
know I'd
boroughs
be
is
going
40
in with
miles.
zero expectation of my abilities at that point. Yeah.
Five boroughs is 40 miles and about 35,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
they can get really big.
and it's all closed roads.
Nice.
And
That's nice.
I don't know about that tapping in and tapping outside of it, because when I did it, I just finished right. You can stop anytime you want and take a break. And I'm sure that if at one of the rest stops, if you want to stop, and they have a way for somebody to pick you up and take you back, maybe to Staten Island. But I don't know about that part about tapping in and tapping out. I don't know about that part.
Hmm.
Kind of like the five boroughs. We have one here in Utah called the Golden Spike, and you can start up north in Ogden, or you can start down south in Provo, and you can ride south or you can ride north. You can jump in anywhere. They have like 5 different points, but overall it's 100 miles.
And I
Oh,
think there's
nice.
also a Philadelphia to Atlantic City ride. But I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a race or an event. I just know someone in my office had done it, and that looked like a big deal too. Because I think you go down the Atlantic City Expressway. So it's like a major undertaking of coming over the Philadelphia Bridge and then into New Jersey and stuff. So
Cool.
Hmm.
That's cool.
So if you wanted to find events, do you just Google cycling events or
Yeah,
yeah?
there's a lot of websites that will do it by state or by country.
Okay.
So I use one called Cycling West. It's all the western states of the United States that they
Okay.
get events from directors to put on their website. And there's another one, I can't remember the name of it, but whoever gives the person in charge of the website the events, they'll put them in, and you can look by every state. And some of them are
That's
even, you can even look out of country. So,
Okay.
that's
And,
cool.
and then I'm assuming like your local bike shop probably knows about events going on in the area. And if you wanted to, and that's probably a good place to maybe
yeah,
talk to somebody about a bike and all that too, if you have questions and
yeah. It's here in Utah because like Goldilocks is a women's only event and it's more south of the state. A lot of people on the northern side of the state don't know about it. So I'm kind of like the rep for it. And it's been fun to educate the bike shops of, hey, there's more than just like these three things happening in the north.
right.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
Well, it
good.
sounds
Sounds
like
like
you're a great
you're,
contact.
yeah, exactly. Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. There's probably so many more things that we could talk about, but I want to be respectful. We're already past 8 o'clock, and I know that people want to get on with their Sunday evening. But thank you so much to our volunteers, and I hope this was fun for you guys and anybody that is able to watch the replay. So we'll post that in the Facebook group and send out the email. And then just one more reminder that we're going to have our drawing Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will make a Facebook event for that, so y'all can what do- RSVP for that. All right. Any
And
any
if
last question?
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
if you all want to carry on the conversation, you can just tag each other in the Facebook group. And if you have other questions, just let us know. I know we weren't able to cover everything that we wanted to talk about tonight, but we do want to be respectful of your time. But yeah, carry on or message each other or however you want to do it in the Facebook group. But yeah, let's
can I
And I
ask
know
for
that,
one favor?
sure.
yep.
Because Sabrina's wall is unbelievable. Can we start a chat on the wall of like, I'm redecorating my apartment of how people display their medals. I would love to see
Yeah.
people post pictures of how they display it. Because Sabrina, it's badass behind you. I've been
Thank you.
staring at you for an hour and 10 minutes, just going, oh,
Thank you.
that's so
I
beautiful. I
appreciate that. It's
love
my
it. I
expensive
love it.
wall.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Yeah, that is an awesome idea. Let's do that in the Facebook group. Let's start that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I have a lot more medals too, but that's all the only ones that I
Don's
have
little
on.
tiny like square there.
They're with the
All mine
alligators.
live in a drawer.
Yeah,
Who said that?
about
Angie?
Angie.
Angie, yeah.
So
Oh my gosh, I think everybody could take a lesson from Sabrina.
It's gorgeous. I love that wall. I'm
yeah.
obsessed with it. It looks so good.
Thank you.
Oh.
All right.
And then, like Dawn said, I know that you guys, I think everybody kind of follows each other on Instagram too. I think you guys are on Instagram quite a bit. So if it's okay with you all that volunteered your time tonight, if people reach out and DM you, and I hope that's okay. And feel free to just like Dawn said, keep the chat going if you have questions that have come up from tonight. So. All right, you
Okay.
guys, thank you so much. We
Thank
love seeing
you.
you.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
we'll see you Wednesday, or no, we won't. You'll see us Wednesday night.
Thank you guys for hosting this.
Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
Yeah,
much.
thank
All
you.
right.
This
Yep.
was great.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
Bye.
right.
Bye, everyone.
Good
Awesome. All
night.
right.
Good
Bye.
Bye-bye.
night.
All right.